it's like
That's perfect.
you know that crazy
Yeah.
emoji, the crazy person, like that's
Yeah.
me.
Your eyes are like, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, just counting our blessings. She's feeling a lot better today.
Well,
So
yeah, let's roll through this, and then you can get back to vacation, Saad.
yes, sir, yes, sir. No,
So,
so I
Saad,
think
give the
I want to tell everybody really quickly, like just kind of like how this topic came to
hey.
be.
Let me ask that question because that's exactly what I was going to ask. Anyway, yeah,
I
by all means. So,
so. One of my buddy Horace, he reached out to me, a couple of weeks ago. I want to say, or maybe actually it was last week.
mm,
And he texted me and he's like, "Hey, like I've been talking to some of my friends here. He lives in New York City right now, or in that area." And he was like, like one thing that came up was like, there's lots of content out there about like, okay, now you have money. Like, what do you do now? What are the steps, right? Like, what are the steps? What's the process? Who do I talk to? All that kind of stuff, right? What there's not a lot of content out there about is okay, like even before you get to that stage,
mm,
the 6 months, the 12 months, the 18 months, maybe more before that, what do those look like, right? Uh, and it's a really good question, and he's absolutely right. It's not talked about enough, probably because the professionals in the industry, um, like who are putting out content, right? They're incentivized to really just focus on the people who already have the
yeah,
money, right?
you
And
just
that's
like you're catching them at the raise your hand, like, okay, I
exactly,
think I'm ready to, yeah.
yeah. And like that's just is what it is. But but he's right. Like there should be more stuff about that. Like how do
Mm-hmm.
you help those people get ready as opposed to just having them fend for yourselves? Um, and so like I think like he made a good point. And by the way, he's got a good job. He does pretty well himself. And if he's thinking about it, like I gotta imagine there's a
Yeah,
lot of other people
yeah.
that thinking about it and who are not in as fortunate of a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't know the details of the situation, but it's like I think that's kind of like that's the impetus of this conversation. In fact, we had something else planned
Yeah,
for today's live, but we changed it up because we thought it was so important to talk about, especially to start the year,
right,
right?
right. It's perfect. Yeah,
And things like that. So that's why we're here, and I guess that's a good reminder for folks too. I mentioned on my story, I think it was yesterday, like if you have suggestions for things that we should be talking about, for things that are on your mind as it relates to real estate or some ancillary topic, let
yep.
us know. Like
We'll gladly be your puppets. Just give us a
happily,
topic. Yeah.
happily,
Hmm.
give us topics. We're always looking for things that that folks want to know more about, or maybe just like want to hear some banter about.
Yeah.
Like we're here for that. So, but yeah, I mean, Mike, like, so what are your kind of initial thoughts on that? Like, where do you think like folks should start? How far in advance? Like, what are the kind of the key things that folks need to be thinking about? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Um, well, I think like instead of picking a time, it's really like if you get an understanding now, that'll give you your timeline of things, right? I think there's once again, we don't, real estate, it is fun and it's wonderful to, close a house with somebody and they get to go and enjoy that. But it's not easy. Like it's all smiles at the end, but it's not an easy process, and it's a very like monumental thing to achieve in your life.
Hmm.
So I think from the psychological aspect of it is to, no matter where you're at right now, you might like even beat yourself up and be like, oh, I'll never get this, or like, oh, I'm years away, or something, some story that you tell yourself. Getting information now or as early as you can benefits you for the entirety of the transaction, and all that. So I would say like not, there's no particular time to start, but now is the time to find out, or sorry, now is the time to start, but that will dictate your timeline of when you actually like go into search and try to purchase something in the future.
Yeah, Agreed. It's never too early.
Mhm.
It's never too early to start kind of getting your ducks in a row, or even like prepare to get your ducks in a row, or to start preparing to get your
Just
ducks in
get
a
your
row.
ducks.
Yeah, yeah.
What if you
Just
don't
get
have
your
your
damn ducks.
ducks?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or just know who the ducks
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
right? Like that, because there is a lot involved. I mean, it's 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 not just your agent, it's not just your lender, it's not just an attorney, it's not just an inspector. Many times they're working together. There's other components involved. Who knows what challenges can come up? I mean, it is a really important to just start gathering that information. I
Mhm.
agree. Uh, and it's not, and I hear that question all the time. Like, oh, like, when should I start? Yeah, now.
Yeah. Today. Yeah. How about
Like, start
you?
gathering that information
You
now.
just started by asking me. Like that is
Right.
the first step in the whole
Right,
thing.
right, right. And congrats, that's a big thing,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
right? Like, pat yourself on the back. That's huge that you're trying to go down this path. But now comes like the part of like putting all these pieces together for you, because you can't just read a blog or
Hmm.
talk to one person and now you figured everything
Yeah.
out. That's 100 not the case. So you need to kind of start gathering that information, and it takes time to do that.
And what?
Regardless of what your financial situation is, which we'll talk about in a second, um, that the information gathering is super, super important.
Right, right. And the overarching thing mainly is going to be financials at the beginning, right? So I know you talked about some things that you can be in control of and some things that you have to like maybe plan further out for, but would you like to delve onto a few of those in the
Well, Mike,
financial umbrella?
I would. I
Great.
think.
How about that?
I think the first. So let's talk about the things you can
Yeah.
control, and I think the easiest one is credit. And let me take that back. It's not necessarily easy. It's just it's it's the one that uh, it's the one that, like, you develop good habits early, right? Like, it's something you're not going to have to worry
Mhm.
about later on. Like, it's basic, because it's going to be it's going to be so ingrained in kind of how you do go about things. It's not going to be an issue when it comes to getting a loan, right? And again, we're gonna use the I think use the lens of somebody who's getting financing, because if you are paying cash, if you have family helping
Yeah.
you out, all that
Thank you.
kind of stuff, a lot of this is not going to apply
Mhm.
to you. Like, that's great, like,
Yeah.
good for
Good
you, right?
for you. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. But a lot of what we're talking about, like, largely because majority of people don't have that
Yeah.
benefit. So we're gonna focus on that lens. It Without good credit, right? Or let me do it. Without good credit, you can still get a loan, but you're gonna have so many more options if you have good credit,
Yeah.
right?
And
And
rates are going to be, everything's going to be better for you.
everything. The down payment assistance programs, how much you can put down, the rate, um, potential credits, like a lot of different things can be at your disposal if you have good credit. Again, depends on lender and all that kind of stuff. And what that means is pay your bills.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, the habits that are going to create your credit score, but there are some, and I just like to pause and say hello to Abdul. What's up, Wes? And the Punja, Punju.
What's
Hello.
up, everybody?
What's
I
going on?
know.
Welcome to the live. It's good to have you here. So on the credit, like, I think the lens I want to look at this through is to always remind people that there should be no like shame or guilt or something of the past is the past, right? Like, you can develop good habits starting now if you don't have them. If you have had them, great. But analyzing each thing in its reality instead of avoiding some stuff, like the credit may be off, but that might be a few tweaks or some things that you haven't paid that you didn't even know about that need to be closed out, and that can be boosted a ton. So just analyzing your credit and coming up with a plan to improve it over time, no matter where you're at right now, is the best
Yeah,
thing
and
to do.
and that's why having discussions, gathering information is so important because there are resources you can tap into to number one, identify what those issues are because you may not know about
Right.
all of them,
Right.
right? Oh, damn, I did this and a little
Oh,
bubble
cool.
popped up.
That's fun.
But so that's number one. Number one, identify it, and then number two is actually like figure out what you should do about it, right? Because oftentimes, I mean, I can guarantee you, like you Google something, click on a link, and submit information, you're gonna start getting spam calls up the wazoo,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, be careful about that. So if you have good people in your corner, they can help you figure out, okay, who you should actually talk to help that stuff, to help take care of that stuff. And you made a really good point. Like, definitely nothing to feel guilty about, right? Because sometimes things just happen in your
Yeah.
life, right? And you have like a situation where you need to put a lot of money on your credit cards and things like that, not easy to pay off. Like this happens, and but that's not the end of the world. But it's important to realize that if that stays on as a balance, and you're not making your minimum payments and things like that, that can get you in trouble in 18 months when you're really trying when you're trying to buy a house, right?
Yeah.
So again, gathering information and starting to put together a plan to tackle that is super important,
Yeah.
regardless of the situation.
I know. Yeah. I think the avoidance of a lot of people is in something that I think we're all inclined to think is that you talk to somebody, maybe you don't know them that well or something like that, and you automatically feel, whether it's real or not, a sense of pressure from them of like, oh, they're gonna push me to do this or that. And that like our whole business is based on the reputation and the like time after time practice of being like, there is no pressure. We're only um, conveyors of information and guides for this. There is no fee, there is no cost to this. Everybody on a transaction only gets paid if you've actually purchased the house.
Right.
However long that takes and whatever amount of information that is needed for that, it comes for free up, through that. Like there is no charge. So I think people's avoidance sometimes are like, I'll start looking next year because they think they're going to be pressured into things, or they don't want to have that in their life. But facing the reality head on is the only way to actually.
Yeah, and I think if you have that mindset, then what you should be doing is okay, fine. Like, look, if you come across those people doing your research and what have you, doing your conversations, that you feel that to get that feeling from them, then move on to find those people who don't make you feel that way.
Yeah.
Because those are the people that are like, they're gonna go to bat for you and do everything they can to make it an amazing experience. Number one, but number two, get you to that finish line, right? And really listen to you along the way. And that's not easy to find. Like, let's face it,
You are
not easy,
correct.
right? It's not easy to find. But if you have that mindset, start now to find that team that's going to be in your corner.
Mm-hmm.
Because it takes some time, unless obviously you're working with us, but it does take some time generally to figure that out, especially like I mean, because every state has its nuances,
Mm-hmm.
right? Every maybe even like certain towns have their nuances. So again, do your due diligence, start sooner rather than later, all that kind of stuff. Now, like like I have my thoughts on income and assets, which are the two other kind of like. So taking a step back, there's three main pillars of getting financing. There's credit, there's income, there's assets. Right? Credit, I think, is the one that you have the most control
Mm-hmm.
over. Uh, Assets is number two, which I'll get at in a second, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts on those two, income and assets? Like, what can you be doing? Should you be doing? Any kind of like general tidbits for anybody that's listening?
Income and assets. I think, well, once again, like until you talk to somebody, like I wouldn't even, uh, I would get the plan in place then for avoiding unnecessary purchases.
Mm,
Like I think if you do want to buy a home, that goes to your number one slot of importance of
yeah,
things,
yeah,
not the new grill or a new car or something like that. Like that should be the main focal point. If there's other money to do that, by all means, that's great.
Yeah.
But I would lock that down first. And I think like an agent and then the lender hand in hand right at the beginning, because I know Hunter, Mike, all the lenders that we consistently work with are going to analyze your income and assets and basically tell you what is the affordability and give you guidance as to if you tweak a few things, here's how you can be better off.
Right.
So
Right.
that the lender is honestly the purveyor of the information that I would trust.
Yeah, I
Your point.
think like you hit it on the head when you mentioned earlier, like don't spend on, you know, if you don't need something and you're planning on, if you have a timeline for when you want to buy something, like, you know, what you're talking about is a budget,
Oh, am I? Is that what that is? Shit,
right?
I didn't even.
You're talking about doing your own kind of mini financial plan,
Yeah,
right? To like make sure that you're doing the right things. Like again, habits, right? Like getting into those good habits of like putting away a few $100, investing it properly, using the right accounts, all this kind of stuff. Like this is a lot of that. Like, look, can a financial advisor help you? Sure, yes, right. And can an accountant help you? Yes, they can help you to an extent, and especially together, they can help you a lot, right? But at the end of the day, it's on you,
yeah,
right? The budget piece is on you. Nobody knows your budget like you do. So you need to put that budget together, figure out how much you need to set aside, where you need to invest it, all that kind of stuff. Again, that's where a financial advisor comes in and things like that. That's why I personally feel income does not matter nearly as much as assets and credit. Income, there are people who are making $50,000 a year who very quickly, just because they have a budget and have control over their expenses, they can get to a point where they're going to put a 10, 15, 20% down payment on the home that they're looking for in 18 months.
mm,
But there are people who have the expenses out of their control, right? Who make $250,000, $300,000 a year, right? So it's not so much about how much money you make. Income, I
yeah,
think, matters the least. What matters much more is those habits, and that's where credit and assets matter much more. So again, part of your information gathering should be um, gathering your own information. What are your expenses, right?
mm,
How much money is coming in? How much money is going out? Create like essentially a balance sheet for yourself, a budget, obviously, for yourself, to put it simply, and make sure there's some money being set aside to help you achieve this goal.
yeah, yeah. And that also can seem like an amorphous thing until you get a target amount from the because the thing on this is like people will go online and run like there's like a loan
Yeah,
creator or something like that
the
and try
mortgage
to show you,
calculators and
yeah,
things
loan
like that.
calculator. And those numbers can be egregiously off. There could be different programs for whatever your situation is where you need to know the amount of money that you need to bring to like how much are you going to have to spend in cash to get the property that you want. And you can only know that through the lending programs that are available to you. And you might not know a lot about those
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
So the budgeting is key, but finding a target amount early on is something that you need to know. And whether that's 2 years in advance or you can do it right now, you might as well get an
right,
understanding
right.
at the moment.
I get an understanding of like, hey, is it absolutely crucial that you're gonna have to pay, or absolutely unavoidable that you're gonna have to pay PMI, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're putting less than 20% down. Do you have any down payment assistance program, at least available right now? Things can realize things can change in 18 months, things can change in 2 years, even in a year, right? In fact, they probably will change.
Mm-hmm.
But just knowing what potentially is at your disposal can be really helpful and save you tons of time and stress later on.
Yeah,
Uh,
because
so,
the stress is from the unknown. That's where all the stress comes from.
and yeah, like you do some planning, then you kind of just can have you just go into it when you're actually active, right?
Mm-hmm.
Active meaning like you're working towards getting your pre-approval, seeing places, like talking criteria with your agent, all that kind of stuff. then even putting in offers. Like when you get to that point, you're gonna have so much more confidence if you've
Yes.
done this planning. And that's what it comes down to. Do some planning, right? Like again, everyone's situation is different, but for your situation, like, you know, plan around your credit, plan around building some assets. You know, income is income. Like your job is your job. Like, you know, every industry is different, and
Yeah, there's not
you want
much.
to switch jobs to make some more money. Great, good for you, fantastic, right? Uh, but again, I think it's much more about like what you're doing with the income you have as opposed to how much that
Yeah,
income is.
very
Like
true.
I mean, you even hear about athletes, right? Athletes who make ungodly amounts of money,
And then,
right? And then, like, you know, a couple of years after they're done playing, they're broke.
right.
Like it's because again, very different situations, but the main reason is because, like, you know, they didn't stick to, you know, they didn't
Yeah.
have that planning and good people around them
I
to
don't
help them.
think it's a different situation. I think it's just extrapolated when, if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
like a lot of
more.
money behaves in the way that like your sort of discipline and kind of like emotional intelligence on what to do with that. Like, yes, it might be on a smaller scale, but an athlete going broke versus somebody,
Yeah,
not
bro,
earning
I
that
mean, you're right.
money is,
Good point. Broke is
yeah,
broke, right? Like you can't pay your bills, you've racked up credit card debt, all that kind of stuff. Again, sometimes life will just like necessitate that,
hmm
right? And that happens, right? And but if you're doing the right things in terms of gathering information from the right people and putting a plan together for yourself, this stuff is totally avoidable. It's totally avoidable. You just need to be intentional about those things. Again, focus on your credit, focus on savings, and a plan around your savings, and you're probably going to be totally fine, right? Um,
hmm
but those are kind of like the pillars, I think, when it comes to the key pillars. Again, income does matter. You know, any lender is going to ask you how much money you make, right?
sure.
Because that's going to matter. But but I think that the two things that you have, you know, you've heard me say this before, Mike, but control what you can control, right? I think the majority of life you can't control. You can't control a lot of things in life.
Yeah.
When it comes to your financial life, two things you really can is your credit and your savings,
hmm
based on your
Straight up.
situation,
That's
right?
it. Yeah.
So,
I'd like
so
to just say hi to Miguel. What's up, Miguel? Good to see you.
what's up, Miguel?
Apple. What's up, Apple?
How you doing?
Diana. And then Ali S23. What's
Oh, what's
up?
going on? How's everyone doing? Welcome. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Yeah.
Again, just you know, we're covering a topic today that came from one of my friends who had mentioned that, you know, there's not enough content out there about uh, folks planning to buy. It's about more about buying than actually the whole process to even get there. So
hmm
that's why we covered it. And so the reason I bring that up is, like, you know, if you have suggestions, if you have anything you'd like us to cover, please share. You know, in fact, you know, what we did was we swapped out that topic for something else we had planned for this week, just because it was number one, timely, beginning of the year, and
Yeah.
number two, really cool that, you know, somebody had reached out about
Yeah,
a topic.
dude. We'll
It was
we'll
awesome.
do yeah, and we'll take all requests,
Absolutely.
We're not we're not beholden to our set list of
No,
things. So,
no. Well, but
uh
one thing we commit to is trying to do this every
of
week.
course.
That's why I'm doing this while I'm on vacation.
Yeah,
So
man, dude, we're gonna see. That's the beauty of that is that we're gonna be doing them from like inevitably we're gonna be
I know.
traveling
I was
in
thinking
different
about
spots.
this. I was thinking about this week Mexico. Last week I was home back in
Yep.
Boston. The week before that I was in Canada. So
Yeah.
basically we covered all of North America in
Yeah,
2 weeks.
dude. No, you're.
Um,
It's
but
incredible.
hey, we've been having tons of fun
Yeah.
doing this. Again, just to recap what we discussed, and Mike, you know, please let me know if I missed anything. But
Always.
key things, focus on planning for around savings, focus on any credit issues, and even if you don't have credit issues, just maintaining good credit, because that's something that's not easily fixable, and it's at least, like, you know, in a short amount of time. And so focus on those two things, and gather information. It's never too early to start gathering the information you need for your situation. So,
Yep. And our lenders are going to put, if you need credit improvement or need to do a few things, they're going to put you on a plan for that. They're going to give you those details. And when it comes to the target goal of how much money you're going to need to purchase a house of X amount, they are going to tell you that, because that's also based on the loan programs that are available and what the down payments are.
But like that's the key, right? Like people think, oh, I'm going to talk to a lender. I need to get a pre-approval. My credit's going to get full, but it hit all that kind of stuff. No, that's not true. You can just have questions for them and have a relationship with a lender, and that's very powerful. You're going to have somebody you can reach out to with any questions regarding your home loan. It's actually a really helpful resource. Like, think about it. It's such a super helpful resource to have somebody you trust. Right? Again, that's why, like, you gotta, there's gotta be some rapport there. You gotta like each other and all that kind of stuff. But somebody you can text or email or call if you need to just have a question or two answered as you're doing this planning for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months down the line. Like, a good lender is gonna drop everything to answer your question, because they know that this stuff is gonna be helpful for you, and result in a transaction down the line, right? So like I think that's super important. People do not get caught up in like, oh, my credit's going to take a hit if I talk to a lender. That's not true. So you just as a tidbit for folks, you get a pre-approval. You get a pre-approval. Yes, your credit will get hit, but that pre-approval lasts for 90 days. And if you get a pre-approval from anybody else, it doesn't matter. Your credit will still only get hit once. So keep that in mind. It should not be like, oh my God,
ding,
my credit
ding, ding.
It's like, yeah, exactly. That's 100% not true. So I just feel like there's a weird stigma around,
there is
around that in the industry, right? Like, it's just crazy to me. But alas, I know we're over time, but this was a fun one. Again, send over recommendations if you guys want us to cover anything. And we'll be back at it next week.
Yeah. Shout out Randy. Shout out Abdul. Hello.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Yes, thank you. We love it.
I'm sorry.
Now you go put that hat to use, my man.
I'm gonna jump right into the hot tub.
Yeah.
Let's go.
You can go live with that. I won't join. All right.
Oh man. Maybe we'll save that for another time. All right, man. We'll talk next week.
All right. Bye, Saad.